61.5 inches. Whoa! So in other words, 5'1.5". 1.56 for you non-Americans. What the fuck is a kilometer? Yeah, this sword is huge that I had to move to my living room and interrupt my cats. They were napping. Sorry, babies. She's wide awake now. Because the sword wouldn't fit into the frame if I was filming in my office. Hi and welcome to part 2 of my absolute Wonder Woman cosplay tutorial, where I show you how I made my sword. Check out part 1 if you haven't already. I cover how I made the entire cosplay in that video. I made this sword in about a week. In total, this cosplay took me 2 weeks, and I wore it to DragonCon last year for the first time. Let's jump right in. My template was made by cropping an image of the sword and scaling it to size using a website called Posterrazor. I print this out and I cut out sections of the sword and isolate the rectangle to use as my base to start off with. I didn't mention this in my last video, but I mostly used SKS Props HD foam for this project, and I used 10mm foam for the sword. I copied the rectangle to my foam and cut this out twice. I prepared my PVC pipe, which will run throughout the sword and provide some structure. I cut it using my Dremel rotary tool, which is shown so clearly here. Next, I cut and glue these long strips of foam, which are off-centered because, again, I isolated the rectangle to work with first, so the sharp edges will come later. I cut a bunch of little strips of foam, making sure to leave enough space for additional long strips of foam to make up the sides of the sword. This acts as a skeleton to strengthen the structure of the sword and to help keep the PVC from moving out of place. As always, use proper PPE and ventilation when working with contact cement. Here you see me apply it to the outer edges before joining them together. And I use super glue to further adhere the rectangle to the skeleton. Now it's time for the sharp edges. This is the most tedious part because you'll have to create a steep angle, like I'm talking about a 15-degree angle, in order to create this triangle. So I had to sand about an inch inward until it fit. This was so annoying. I really wasn't looking forward to it, but your girl got it done. Now that the edge has been joined, I just use a Sharpie and I smooth down the gaps of the seams and press everything together. Then I take what looks to be 2mm foam and I glue a strip down the flat side so that it looks nice and neat. I use my rotary tool to smooth down all of the seams and edges that I've created so far. And I use Quick Seal to patch in any gaps that were created from the sanding process. So now it's time to build out the hilt. Taking those pattern pieces that I cut out at the beginning, I'm just going to copy them to my foam and build layers to get my desired height and width for both the pommel and the guard. I make sure to measure and cut out my center pieces for the PVC pipe to fit in properly. In order to thicken the grip, I take what looks to be 5mm foam and I just wrap it around the PVC pipe and glue it into place. I don't have a clip of this, but I do sand down this raw edge so that it's smooth, and I later wrap it with a long strip of leather fabric. The last detail of the sword are these red strips, and I just use 2mm foam for this. So sorry my head is in the way. This is what happens when your only filming equipment is just your phone. I use my wood burner to create damage to the sword. At this point, I ran out of Plasti Dip, and since it's so expensive, I just used Glossy Mod Podge as my primer. I have no idea how many coats I did, but I know that I would have done at least 2 coats, ideally 3. I spray painted a satin black base, which, by the way, use Rust-Oleum because Krylon, in my opinion, isn't the best quality. And just like I said in my last video, I'm not the best at painting, so I'm not going to go over this part, but instead, I will direct you to SKS Props Dragon Slayer tutorial because that was actually a huge reference for me when building the sword. So I will have that linked below. I highly suggest watching it because he's a pro when it comes to this stuff. And that is it for the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, you should like it and hit that subscribe button. I make a lot of videos about cosplay, so come join me. Follow me on Instagram, that's where I'm most active. If you want to support me, I only mention this because people have brought it up to me. The best way to do so is through Ko-fi or my Amazon wishlist. Any donations go directly to cosplay, as well as any gifts from my Amazon wishlist, they will get used for cosplay, and therefore I'm able to make more cosplays. At the end of the day, I do this for fun and for free. This has been my hobby for almost 15 years, so I'm gonna keep doing it whether or not people support me. So thank you again, and see you in the next one.